Confession time, I am very scared about becoming a one-income household in this economy. Hey all, if you don't know me, I'm Kara Perez. I'm the founder of Kara Explores Money and the author of the book Money for Change. And my partner is losing his job in just a couple of days. And if you've been paying attention in 2025, or honestly, if you've just been alive in 2025, you know that we're in the middle of a really bad economy. So losing your job right now, less than ideal, to put it very mildly. If you are also freaking out about the job market, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Now, my partner is not the only one going through this. There have been massive layoffs this year, and all the predictions say that more layoffs are to come, especially in light of AI. But also companies are doing things like hiring freezes, meaning they're not taking on new workers because there's just a lot of uncertainty in the economy overall. Trump is playing fast and loose with tariffs, which really impact a company's bottom line. Because of this, I am far from alone in feeling financial anxiety about the cost of living right now. According to a new Harris poll, Americans are still reporting soaring inflation and are increasingly pessimistic about the economy. When asked to estimate how much their regular monthly household costs have increased from last year, 74% of those surveyed said they had seen increases of at least $100. The price of beef and veal has risen nearly 14% between August 2024 and August 2025, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the cost of ground roast coffee hit $8.41 per pound in July 2025, up 33% from July 2024. And just personally, my partner and I moved from a lower cost of living area, Charlotte, North Carolina, to a higher cost of living, Central Massachusetts. I bought a house last year, as I've talked about extensively on this channel, and in North Carolina, we're paying $1,450 a month in rent, and now we pay $2,500 a month between the mortgage, the home insurance, and the property taxes here. Combine that with things like food being more expensive, gas being more expensive, and I'm just really feeling the pinch right now. And again, obviously I'm not the only one. This economy is also really stressing me out as an entrepreneur who has really struggled this year with her business. My income has gone down in 2025 compared to previous years because of a lot of decisions coming out of the White House and this weird economy. The White House has come out in a full frontal assault against DEI initiatives, which in turn has caused many companies, most famously Target, to eliminate their DEI initiatives. And unfortunately, that has really impacted content creators such as myself, because a lot of the money that was flowing into these programs went into things like speaking gigs for content creators. You know, ERG's, employee resource groups, used to hire me to come in and do presentations on finances for their employees, and that funding usually came through the DEI initiative, and that funding has been slashed in a lot of companies. Plus, a lot of companies are pulling back on their partnerships, so there are fewer sponsorships all around, and as someone who doesn't normally do a ton of sponsorships, that means I'm like really bottom of the barrel. I am way, way, way down on the list. So this year, that is another chunk of revenue that has been cut off. And on top of that, I've had to reinvest back into my business this year because we moved. So I had to dissolve my LLC in the old state. I had to reform my LLC here in Massachusetts. I made a few investments into equipment so that I could make better content. And I had to hire an accountant to help me with all of my taxes because, again, I moved states, so the tax laws changed. So to have all of that happen in a year where my partner got laid off in February and is now about to lose his job again, it's just a lot of stress in this household. The Kara T-Bone household is stressed. Now, I do want to say that we are by no means destitute. I think sometimes when I talk about this anxiety or some of the changes we've been through, people are like, you're going to be on the streets in the next 2 weeks. And that is not true. Because I have been such an intense financial nerd for the last 10, 11 years of my life, I'm in a much better position to weather this kind of financial stress than I was, 10 years ago. And for that, I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful to my past self for being so neurotic about saving and investing money. But I am still trying to take a very conservative eye to how we manage finances right now. I know a lot of y'all are in the same boat, or you know people in the same boat, because we're not the only household that's being affected by this bananas economy. So I wanted to share some of the steps that we are taking to prepare for becoming a one-income household. And I would love to invite you to become a patron if you enjoy our channel here, or if you're a member of our newsletter, if you follow us on TikTok or Instagram and you just dig our content. Please help support that content by becoming a patron. Our patrons get all sorts of cool bonuses. So you get things like event discounts, you get things like early access to our podcast episodes, and you get to be part of our very cool, very exclusive Discord community. And of course, you help us create all of the content that you love on all of these different platforms. So if you'd like to see us survive in this very rocky content creator market, it would really mean a lot if you became a patron. Step 1 was to make a personal recession budget. Essentially what's happening in our household is we are going through a personal recession. So I sat down maybe 5-6 weeks ago and made a recession budget. I budget every single month, so I already had the infrastructure set up, but I use this spreadsheet that I made myself, as well as Empower, which is a free-to-use financial dashboard, both of which I will link in the video description. And I just sat down and I highlighted all of our spending in 3 different colors. Bare minimum essential spending that we could not cut, things that we were spending on now that perhaps we could negotiate the prices down for, and costs that we could cut completely and not miss. Categorizing our spending into these 3 categories showed me what our bare minimum expenses were, meaning the things that we need to keep ourselves alive and, in T-Bone's case, job hunting. And then it showed me basically all of the wiggle room in our budget. For me, this is a very calming practice because it's really easy to see big monthly spending numbers and think, oh my God, like I need so much money just to live my life. And then when you go through and actually categorize it into essential, non-essential, can be negotiated, you begin to see that you have a lot of wiggle room. After I did this, I did step 2, which was negotiate down those negotiable costs. Once I had identified areas that I thought we could pay less in, I got in touch with those companies and said, hey, I'd like to pay less. For example, I use Mint Mobile as my cell phone provider, and I knew that my annual plan was coming up in September. So I pay my bill once a year for the entire year. For 2024, I had chosen the most expensive plan, the unlimited data plan, which is $360 a year plus taxes and fees. But moving into this next year of our lives, I knew things were looking rocky income-wise, so I actually dropped down to the cheapest plan, which is $240 a year. So just immediately, I saved myself $120 for the year. Other negotiable costs I identified were my annual credit card fee from Capital One and my internet bill. And I successfully negotiated down my internet bill $10 a month. So again, that's $120 I saved myself. So between the cell phone and the internet, I saved myself $240 a year, which is a lot of money for me right now. Step 3 was to review our savings and boost T-Bone's emergency fund. So since he got the job in May and we knew it was 6 months only, we basically took his working those 6 months to increase his emergency fund. He did have a 4-month emergency fund and now he has a 6-month emergency fund, which makes me feel a lot calmer. We don't have any joint savings. We each have our own savings accounts, but we each keep all of our savings in a high yield savings account, which means that we are each earning over 3% on our savings. And every single month throughout the past 6 months when T-Bone got paid, we would transfer a portion of his paycheck into his emergency fund kept in that high yield savings account. Being able to go from 4 months emergency fund to a 6-month emergency fund has really brought me a lot of peace of mind because the job market is very rough. I'm hopeful that T-Bone will get a job before the end of 2025. I am really putting good vibes out there for that. But in the event that he doesn't, he is able to pay all of his bills for the next 6 months just out of savings. And of course, I'm still working, I'm always bringing in some sort of money, even if it's a bit of a roller coaster. So my hope is that my income can kind of supplement his need to completely draw down on his savings. We're obviously going to be dipping into that, but I would really love to kind of stretch his 6 months into maybe 8 months or something. Oh my gosh, but ultimately I just want him to get a job so badly. Please send good vibes for T-Bone to get a job. Step 4 was cutting out non-essentials. So it's been kind of a weird year for our spending. I'm doing a low spend year, which I've been sharing my quarterly updates on my spending throughout the year. You can go watch those videos. And T-Bone's just a low spend guy in general. He doesn't spend a lot of money, which I'm very grateful for. But it's also been an expensive year, and I have tried to get ahead on a couple of things. So for example, coffee prices are absolutely bananas. T-Bone loves coffee. So I've bought a bunch of coffee in bulk so that we could freeze it because as prices increase, I want him to still be able to drink coffee. I don't want this man to be unemployed in the New England winter, unable to go with a cup of coffee. That is a level of sadness that I'm just not willing to inflict on him. So I've just had a couple of areas where I've bulk bought, which means I've spent more, but ultimately will result in savings down the line. And that's kind of thrown off our spending overall. However, when I sat down and made the recession budget, I did highlight areas that we could completely eliminate after T-Bone lost his job. So for example, we canceled Peacock, which we weren't even watching. I mean, we had Peacock for like 2 years and I think we watched it 4 times. It was a huge waste of money, so we canceled that. I also had taken a home improvement class earlier in the year because I wanted to learn some skills. Like, I'm not very comfortable with power tools, and this class really focused on a lot of stuff like that. I'm so glad I took that class. I will not be taking more classes until T-Bone gets a job. So this is why step 1 is so important, making those 3 categories and creating your personal recession budget, because I was very easily able to identify, hey, we can cut this out immediately, we can cut this out immediately, and then add all of that up into savings. And then finally, step 5 is networking and job applications. So T-Bone has been applying for jobs since August, and he's also been keeping his network warm. He's getting in touch with former employers, he's getting in touch with former coworkers, he's on LinkedIn, you know, liking and connecting and doing all of these things, and he is churning out those applications. I will say I feel like he is applying much slower than a lot of people that I read about online. You know, like I'm in various Reddit forums and people are like, I'm applying to 30 jobs a day. And I'm like, whoa, T-Bone is definitely not applying at that speed. But he's really personalizing each application, and hopefully that will pay off. Again, keep those fingers crossed for T-Bone. Ultimately, I feel like we have done as much as possible to prepare for becoming a 1-income household, and I do have hopes that my own business will pick up. I mean, content creation, there's a lot of money in this game, and there's a lot of opportunity in this game. And I really do continue to believe that if I just keep putting out quality content, that I will be blessed by the algorithm, and that somebody will say, hey girl, you know, here's a $10,000 sponsorship deal, pay those bills, pay that mortgage. I am hopeful, and I have been working on my own kind of business plan moving into 2026. But fundamentally, what we really need is T-Bone to get a job. It's just hard mentally to be unemployed. Many people know that. I really want him to get back into the stability and the normalcy of having a job and a regular routine. And I also would love to be a 2-income household again. That's just easier. It's just way easier, especially in a high cost of living area. So that's it from me today. As always, thank you for watching. If you dig this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure to hit subscribe.